Hello everyone. Um, make this brighter. Cool. Okay. Just let people join in. Just give me a second. Okay, I'll just give it another minute, a few seconds more, to get people in. Um, okay, I'm gonna start. Okay, so this is what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about Giga Cloud, and then I'm going to talk about different aspects of getting some context about the market right now. And then finally, I'll open it up to some Q&A because I think people want to ask a few questions right now. So I'm just going to start off with Giga Cloud. So when I recommend the Giga Cloud, I felt that the business was growing at a really rapid speed, and I was thinking myself that I had a gem of a business. And anytime that you make an investment in a small business, there's always going to be uh, periods they're going to test you. I can tell you countless examples like this, like looking back, Robin Hood at some points. I know it's crazy to imagine, but even at some points, Palantir was like that. People were like, "Oh my God!" Like I give my hand on my heart. I recommend that stock at 10. I saw it fall to $7.50. Today, it's unimaginable, even after everything that's happened, for that stock to be at 7.50. But it was, and it's just like it was 24 months ago. It was around March time. So, sorry, it was actually 2022, actually, 3 years ago, I suppose. But the point that I'm making is that when you make an investment in a small business, these businesses are untested, and there are times when they're really cheaply valued, and there are times when the market is unjustifiably negative on the business. And sometimes, you know, you just need to get a few back-to-back quarters, and investors are like, you know what? Actually, this business is okay. I can give you an example of HIMS. This is something that's fresh in the mind of people. Um, but you need to give that business time. But I don't believe in giving it infinite time. Now, what makes matters worse here is that right now in the market, it's very much of a risk-off sentiment. So this makes things much more complex in the overall picture. But generally speaking, I was willing to wait until the summer to make a firm decision on GigaCloud. But what I don't like, I'm not going to say trick, no one's tricking anyone here, but I don't like it when I embrace a journey that management puts out. And I recognize, because I've been with this business for a while now, I started this business in 2023. They had bought a business out of bankruptcy, Noble House. And right from the start, they said, listen, we bought this business out of bankruptcy because it's incurring massive losses. We're going to take that on board. We're going to give it some time. We're going to restructure the business. And together, the business, which is GigaCloud plus Noble House, will continue to grow and will go happily onwards. What I didn't expect, more than a year later, for things to still continue to be slowing down from Noble House. I thought I was done and dusted. And I put too much hope. Um, you know, you buy these small businesses, and every business starts off small, right? And you kind of buy into these businesses, and sometimes these management teams are really high quality, although the businesses are known, and they make the right decisions, and they quite swiftly restructure the businesses and that. But sometimes, for whatever reason, it just takes longer than you envisioned. So that's the first problem. The second problem is that shipping costs are still really high. And I felt that that had already been factored in terms of the costs that they contracted out. But I can see that from the commentary on the earnings call that looking ahead, gross margins are still going to be under pressure. And that sucks because you end up having less revenue than you expect to work with and more costs in terms of the shipping costs. So the bottom line is like, yeah, you end up with some profits now, but you fast forward the clock 6 months and those profits start to compress and compress, and it starts off as a really cheap stock and it ends up being even cheaper. And, you know, I said, I don't know when people join the service, but I said throughout 2024, when I go to 2025, I'm going to make a lot of ruthless decisions. And, I'm not trying to be popular. I will do the difficult decisions that are required from me. And I said, what separates the average investor from an above average investor is the willingness to have the discipline to go through with your decisions. Everyone talks about discipline and everyone talks about these kind of things like, oh, yeah, man, I've got so much discipline. But discipline is not just talking about it, but doing something about it. And I have to make these decisions as we're navigating this challenging environment. But I want you to know that right now the market is in this kind of risk-off sentiment. And I said in the comments this morning that um, the Nasdaq was down 5%. We're in the 3rd of March, and it's 4th of March, and it's down 5%. And generally speaking, in the past, since basically 2009, there's been 2 years when the Nasdaq has been negative. And in one of those years, 2022 obviously was brutal, and that's in people's recent memory, and people are like, oh my God, we're going back to that. I don't think that we are, but even if from this point onward, the Nasdaq goes up approximately 5%, obviously not precisely 5, because if you go down 5, you need to go up a bit more than 5, but if it goes up approximately 5%, it would end 2025 flat, like with no unchanged. And that's not many times in a 10-year period that the Nasdaq is down um, on a yearly basis. So these are difficult periods, but it won't last. And a lot of the air has already come out. It just that the problem is that we as investors feel more pain when we're losing something. An example that I can give you is if I gave you $5, you'd be like, oh, okay, that's cool, man. I'll get myself a coffee. But if I stole $5 from you, you'd be like, oh my God, like what's going on here? Like, why is this person taking something from me? And as human beings, our biases towards loss aversion are much more acute. And when the market goes down, it goes down very sharply. But from this point around here, there's going to be a new leading sector that's going to come out. And you don't know what it is, but you need that kind of sentiment to wash out. And nobody likes that. Nobody wants that washout. But from this washout, and most of the pain has already been in the share prices. So whether the market's down today or not, it's not really that, doesn't matter that much because it's already come down. So from this point, it's like, it's going to be okay. It's even if it goes down, let's say another like few percentage points, the drop that we already embraced is already kind of likely to be over half of the pain that we've had to embrace. And it's really difficult to, I was talking to my wife about this, and it's really difficult to honestly buy into this idea, but this will pass. And I know it's difficult. It's really difficult. But once you've been through, a few of these cycles, you understand that, yeah, it's not permanent and this will pass. And it sucks when you're in it, but I can't help myself from being excited that I know two things. I know that even including this challenging period, the deep value returns is still outperforming the Nasdaq. That gives me confidence. And like even in 2025, not to mention since 2024, and also from when market sentiment comes back, I want you to know, and I promise you this. I promise you. I don't make a lot of promises, but I promise you this: when market sentiment comes back and the risk on sentiment comes back, it's going to be very strong. And it's difficult to imagine now, but the same that I was saying to people, I don't know how long you've been on the service, but the same I was saying to people a few weeks ago, there's going to be a time in the market when it's going to be red days after red days after red days. And it didn't resonate to people. People couldn't understand where my risk aversion was coming from. And I said, it will come. You don't know when it's going to come. Nobody times the tops and no one times the bottoms. But there's going to be money to be made along the path. So it's not about being a hero. And just my concluding thought that I want to put to people. I recognize that it's difficult. By Lord, I recognize that it's difficult. But sitting on your hands doesn't mean being passive. This is an active decision. You sit on your hands, and I know we'll come out of it. And with that, I'll open it up to some Q&A if anyone wants to ask any questions.
Hey, Michael, this is Haji.
Hello, Haji.
I have a question. You may not really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's fine. That's
Well,
fine.
yeah, well, but let me throw it.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder uh, whether, like you personally
Mm-hmm.
take a look at at least, like some basic technical analysis, such as
Mm-hmm.
50 days average, 100 days average, or 200-day average. And have you ever considered, like when we have the gain,
Mm-hmm.
lock some percentage of those
Mm-hmm.
gains,
Mm-hmm.
and then, like the market seems goes brutal. Yeah, I mean, this is gonna require so much of like attention compared to what you're doing right
No,
now.
no, it's fine. Let me just say. So you on deep value returns, is that correct? You on? Sorry, you on seeking
Yes.
alpha, right? Seeking alpha. Sorry. So um, when the market was hot a few weeks ago, uh, so many people were saying, "I am only a buy and hold on margin investor. I only want to do buy and hold." And I said, these kind of buy and holds work really well when the market is super hot. And you fast forward the clock 4 weeks, and someone like you is saying, "Oh, shouldn't we take more profits?" So it's not that I'm lazy, or it's not that I'm not active, or it's not that I am can't look at a technical indicator. Is that I have been through investing to know that, in my opinion, reading into tea leaves works well until it doesn't. And in hindsight, you can look back and say, "Oh, if I had sold Palantir at 125, I would have looked great. And if I'd sold, whatever, Gig Cloud at 25, I would look great." And you can look back and say, "Yeah, that, it crossed that golden star, and it was the 10 the EMA was below the whatever, whatever, whatever." But in real time, there are people that can do different things like technical analysis.
Hmm.
I know you follow Mark Minervini, and I don't want to badmouth anyone, but I do think, if I'm not the only person to say this, but if Mark Minervini is for he admits himself he's been doing this for 40 years. If he's at 40 years compounding at 100%, how come he's not a billionaire? Like, he's still on like small cap penny stocks. Like, how, like, if it's that easy, he's won the USIC twice or whatever. So like, if he's compounding at, like, 2021, I think he did 340%. So if he's compounding at that type of return for 40 years, man, you stick that in a calculator, like, forget Buffett. Like, this guy will just smash it. So I don't know. I don't want to say that his strategy is worse than mine or that mine, whatever. It's very, very important that you have a strict setup. Okay,
Mhm.
doesn't matter if you're a technical indicator. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the setup that you follow is. Doesn't matter. What matters is having the discipline to know when it's not your time to act and
Mhm.
when it's your time to take the cards off the table. So with me, I'm very much of a free cash flow person. And I think, okay, I'm not sure in the case of Gate Cloud that the free cash flow that I previously expected is going to really show up in 2025. So it doesn't matter what your technical indicator is that you have to have the
Mhm.
discipline to step away when you feel, okay, the setup isn't looking how I felt it was going to look. So, um, yeah. So it's not that I am unable to read a couple of books on this and unable to do that strategy, um, but I have to do what I feel actually works in practice for me.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm happy to expand on this if you have any other question.
No, 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 no. I was just curious about that, but thank you for the explanation. Like what's so brutal is, like the seeing, like when it's a good day, everyone
Yeah.
is happy.
Oh
But when
yeah.
it's a bad day, man, I mean, like seeing this day after day after day, like
But it's
it's
only
it's
been like what? It's been 3 weeks, man.
frustration.
21 days, man. You've had like 24 months of it going up. 21 days, that's nothing, man. Like you couldn't even lose any weight in 21 days if you tried. You know what I mean?
Yep, I
Like
agree. I
like
agree.
it's nothing, man. It's like a little bleep. Um, but I please, Hattrick, I want you to believe me that it will be okay. Like I know from experience that the pain is so acute. And what I find quite ironic is that when when Trump came in, everyone was like, "Oh, Trump is the man. Trump is the savior. Trump is this, that, the other." And now
Yeah.
the Bitcoin's blowing up. This and that. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, this guy's out of the cabinet. Zelensky this, World War Three that." Like it. People just kind of need to understand that it goes up and it comes down, and shares never go in a straight line. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
it, and you have to in your pit, in your stomach. I don't know how to like explain it, but you need to familiarize yourself that nothing goes in a straight line. Like, okay, I'll get like even an example of me. Like I've said to people, I'm trying to lose some weight, and it doesn't go in a straight line as well. And I'm grinding my ass off for it, but like it doesn't go in a straight line. And the same with investing. There are going to be good periods and bad periods, but you have to remain so damn focused on what you're trying to
Mhm.
do. You need to remain really focused. So my strategy, I follow the free cash flow. Whether you do technical indicators or whatever, it doesn't matter. But you need to know, okay, the setup here is good, or the setup here is a free star. And if it's a free star and you've been with it for a while, you have to quote unquote check in with the market. Okay, the market is telling you that it's not going to work out, and you need to say, okay, I'm going to back away. It's not that I've not given this business time. I've been with Giga Cloud. Again, I'm not pointing out names, but way before Seeking Alpha Picks or whatever they called came out with it. So it's not
Mhm.
that I haven't been with it. I've been on my hands. I've been working on this for a long time, man. And it's 2025 now, and I feel okay. You know what? Everything that I thought back in 2023 was wrong. Um, there's no point me kind of keep pretending to be. At the end of the day, you need to just say, listen. For me, the most important thing is my performance at the end of 2025. I'm thinking clearly about that. 2025, the back end, when it comes Christmas time, is George going to be here on the line with me, shaking my hand or not? That's all I'm thinking about. And
Okay.
and and I'll just say one more thing that back in the summer of 2024,
Yeah.
basically it was just like me and George here. There was like periods where it was just me and George, and you know I've had to prove myself, but I've proven that this works. This does work. It doesn't work every single 30-day period. But this
Mm.
strategy of following the free cash flow, it really removes a lot of noise. And I feel that when you remove the noise and just kind of narrow your mind a little bit, for me, for example, I spend a lot of time jogging, and when I'm jogging, I'm kind of thinking to myself like I'm trying to visualize things in my mind and trying to see, okay, do my ideas tally up with what the market is telling me? And if it doesn't, I'm happy to be patient, but I'm not going to be patient forever. You know what I mean? At some point, you just have to say, listen, I called this wrong. And
Yeah.
that's that.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Michael.
Thanks. Daniel, do you want to
Hey,
ask me
Michael,
questions? Hi,
I got a question for you if you got a minute.
I got
Um,
time for you, man.
yeah, so, I really know, I mean, I empathize with you that it's probably very hard to issue these sell things, particularly after you were so,
Bullish.
adamant about
Yeah,
the
yeah,
cloud technology. And,
yeah.
in reality, it's still, I don't know if you would agree with this, but I still think it has some underlying things that are very good. It's just not
Hmm.
the five-star DVR
Yeah, yeah.
criteria at
And
this point. Is that kind of the way you're saying it?
I, you know, I don't want to sell a business that is like so damn cheap, and I don't want to do that. And I would be more than willing to revisit this at some point. I would be more than willing. But I've said to myself that if ever came a situation where I had any doubt, from now on, I would exit and then I'll reconsider. There's been a few businesses where I didn't want to sell. Bill.com was
Like
one. I
Moneyline,
didn't
for example, right?
Moneyline, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But another one like GitHub was another one. I didn't want to sell this business. I didn't want to sell. And once I sold, and you fast forward the clock 6 months, nothing's happened, you know. And another one, I don't know if you probably remember this one. Uh, Auta is can't remember what it stands for. It was like a lidar company that does like
Oh yeah, Elster. Yeah. Yeah.
sorry, Auta, yeah, that does kind of like radio inference for cars, just to see like how the car is navigating and stuff like that. And I genuinely really believed in this business. And then you fast forward the clock like nearly a year, and then nothing has happened. So
Yeah.
you know, it's
Yeah.
there are times like with Gay Cloud that I kind of when I looked through the earnings, I was like, man, it's not that bad. I get it. I get it. It is slowing down. It's not that bad. But I thought myself, okay, I have to be true to myself. When I say to somebody, buy this stock, I'm underwriting that for another year. And I'm thinking to myself, do I really have that much conviction that I'm willing to take people on this journey for one more year? I've already been with this for a long time. Do I really
Right.
want to do that to people? And and I feel myself when I fast forward the clock and next Monday comes up, I generally like to kind of highlight things on a Monday morning. And I think myself, will I put that name down when Monday morning comes around? And the easiest decision for me is to say, buy the dip, because that's easy. Everyone's entrenched in it, everyone is long with it, people are following me, and I'm saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to do an about turn. We're going to the left, and now let's go to the right. And that's really difficult. I'm asking people to follow me, and I'm running in one direction, and I'm running, running, running. And then I kind of say, actually, you know what? I'm going to run in the opposite direction. And it's a real mess. It's a real mess to do that. Uh, the easiest decision would be to say, Mr. Market got it wrong. Mr. Market is wrong. The market is wrong. I am right. Buy the dip. But I guarantee to you, taking the difficult choice now will pay reward at the end of the year. And sticking around with it when it's not working, it's really, really brutal. Because you saw this as well with CSMI, Supermicro.
Hmm.
When the volume of the business starts the revenue, sorry, the revenue. When the revenue of the business slows down slightly and you get a bit of gross margin compression, oh my God, that multiple just gets blown out of the water. And what the market loves is stable stories. I'm not a gross margin guy. I don't pay too much attention to that, but I know the market does. If you give a stable business with stable gross margin, people kind of are willing to stomach any kind of bad news. But if your gross margin compresses significantly from one quarter to the other, the market is like, whoa, I wasn't
Freaks
pricing
out.
this in. And they don't give you the gross margin for Q1. But if you read through the call, you see in the Q&A when they're talking about Noble House, they tell you that straight up. They say, listen, yeah, we have to rationalize uh, some of that inventory. It's basically telling you gross margins are still going to be compressed next quarter. Okay. And then I fast forward the clock where, you know, we're at the end of April, the report, and then they give a guidance. Actually, you know what? The shipping cost is still quite heavy. We haven't really hedged out the shipping costs, and gross margin is still gonna. And then you have the comparables, right? Because then year over year, compared to Q2 of this year, when they were kind of high flying and had loads of positive operating leverage, and then you end up next year and the operating leverage is fully compressed. You're like everyone's kind of gonna be feeling really itchy and stuff like that. And I prefer to just get out
That's a
now.
great point. Yeah, I appreciate your perspective there. Does this um impact your thoughts on liquidity services at all?
No, I don't think the two are related
Mm,
whatsoever. No, I don't think so at
In
all.
terms of like the shipping and the e-commerce or because
One is
liquidity, what,
one
yeah.
is much more liquidity services, much more US focused, much more. It's like,
Okay.
and with Gear Cloud, it's a great idea, but ultimately you're shipping very far from basically from China all the way to the US.
Sure, sure.
It's a completely
Okay.
different
No,
game.
that's good to know. Thank you,
Um,
Michael.
yeah, and I'll just to conclude this. So I know from experience that generally speaking, people don't want to get out straight away. People would much rather, oh, let's see, maybe it'll bounce back. And and the market is brutal, man. The market is so brutal. And it's like I don't know if you were in with me on Bill.com, but when Bill.com came down, it came down 35%. And I was like, to heck with this. I'm ripping the band-aid. And after I sold it, it's down another 15%. Like, and it's only been a few
Yeah,
weeks. So
yeah.
I know that if selling out of Gear Cloud now, you give me like 12 months, I know I can make that money back. I know that. But if I keep that capital tied up there, man, like sentiment is really difficult. To regain
sure.
positive sentiment is it's such a battle uphill. It's a real uphill
Yeah,
battle. It's and that's something that
that's
I'm
great.
really
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
sorry. Does anyone else want to ask any more questions? Surely somebody else wants to ask a question. No, guess not. Okay, thank you. I'll call it a day then. Thank you very much, guys. See you
Thanks,
later.
Michael.
All right.
Thank you,
Yeah, see you
Michael.
later.
There's a-
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks,
Thank
Michael.
you,
Yeah,
Michael.
thanks.